The campfire crackled under the starry sky as Sarah Cross counted heads for the third time. 12 Girl Scouts, all present and accounted for. The forest around them was alive with night sounds, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, and the occasional hoot of an owl. "Remember, ladies," Sarah called out, her voice carrying the perfect blend of authority and encouragement, "this wilderness survival weekend is about developing self-reliance. No cell phones, minimal supplies, maximum scout spirit." A collective groan rose from the circle of preteens, though most were secretly excited about the challenge. They had pitched their tents in a semicircle facing a small clearing in the woods, miles from civilization, but still within the boundaries of Camp Evergreen. "Can I test my new trail mix recipe tonight?" asked Mia, already rummaging through her backpack. Her dark curly hair bounced as she pulled out various bags of nuts, dried fruits, and what appeared to be chocolate-covered coffee beans. "I call it midnight forest fuel. As long as you share," Sarah replied with a smile. Mia was always experimenting with food, turning ordinary camp meals into gourmet experiences, at least by 12-year-old standards. Across the campfire, Roxy spread out a detailed topographical map of the area, her compass balanced on her knee. She had earned more wilderness badges than anyone else in the troop and took great pride in her navigation skills. "I've marked 3 potential hiking routes for tomorrow," she announced, her blonde ponytail swinging as she gestured toward the map. "The Ridge Trail has the best views, but it's steep. I'd like to collect samples along the creek," Lily chimed in, pushing her glasses up her nose. Her notebook was already filled with sketches of local flora and detailed observations about the ecosystem. "The field guide says there might be some unusual moss species in this area." Sarah nodded approvingly. The girls were taking initiative, exactly what she hoped to see. Then there was the trouble trio. Zoe, Chloe, and Joey huddled on a log, whispering and giggling. They were inseparable friends known for their pranks and misadventures, though their hearts were always in the right place. "What are you 3 plotting?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "Nothing," they answered in suspicious unison, which only confirmed Sarah's suspicions. "Just discussing ghost stories for later," Joey added with an innocent smile that fooled no one. As the evening progressed, they roasted marshmallows, sang traditional scout songs, and took turns identifying constellations in the clear night sky. It was everything a Girl Scout camping trip should be, until the strange light appeared. It started as a faint glow behind the tree line, easily mistaken for distant headlights or perhaps the moon rising. But then it intensified, pulsing with an eerie, bluish-white luminescence that no earthly vehicle or celestial body could produce. "MS. Cross." Lily pointed upward, her voice trembling slightly. "What's that?" All heads turned skyward. The light had taken form now, a disc-shaped object hovering silently above the treetops, emitting that strange blue glow. Then came the sound, a wheezing, sputtering noise reminiscent of a bicycle pump with a leak. "Maybe it's a weather balloon," Sarah suggested, though she didn't believe it herself. She instinctively gathered the girls closer to her. "Weather balloons don't hover like that," Lily whispered, her scientific mind already cataloging the impossibility of what they were seeing. Roxy, ever the adventurer, took a step forward. "I want to see what it is." "Nobody move," Sarah commanded, but curiosity had already gotten the better of several girls. The trouble trio stood shoulder to shoulder, mouths agape. "This is so going on my TikTok," Zoe murmured, then remembered her phone was locked away in Sarah's bear canister as per camp rules. Without warning, the object descended, landing in the clearing barely 50 yards from their campsite. There was a hiss, like pressure being released, and a section of the disc slid open. In the eerie glow that spilled out, they could make out silhouettes, thin, silver-skinned creatures with oddly proportioned limbs, dressed in uniform-like attire adorned with unfamiliar symbols. "Are those aliens?" Mia whispered, clutching her bag of trail mix so tightly that nuts spilled onto the ground. Before Sarah could answer or issue any instructions to retreat, a blinding flash erupted from the craft. When the light subsided seconds later, Sarah realized with horror that she and her entire troop were no longer on Earth. The forest, the campfire, the familiar night sky. All gone, replaced by the metallic interior of what could only be a spaceship. The Girl Scouts huddled together in a circular chamber with smooth, silvery walls that pulsed with soft light. Their camping gear had somehow transported with them. Backpacks, sleeping bags, and Sarah's supply chests were scattered around them. "Everyone stay calm," Sarah said, fighting to keep her own voice steady. "Let's assess our situation. We've been abducted by aliens," Joey exclaimed, half terrified, half thrilled by the adventure. Sarah took a deep breath. Her scout leader training had prepared her for many emergencies, flash floods, bear encounters, even the occasional broken bone, but alien abduction wasn't covered in any handbook. "Remember your training," she told the wide-eyed girls. "First rule of survival, stay calm. Second, take inventory of what we have. Third," she hesitated before adding, "wait for the right opportunity." As the girls began checking their backpacks, cataloging their meager supplies, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what kind of opportunity could possibly help them now, trapped on an alien spacecraft, hurtling through space to an unknown destination. Little did she know, their greatest asset would turn out to be something as simple as the half-burned cookies in Mia's backpack and the strange effect they would have on their captors. The Girl Scouts soon discovered they were confined to what appeared to be a holding cell, though it was unlike any prison they could have imagined. The floor beneath them was covered with something resembling artificial grass, plastic-like and uniformly green, but without the softness of actual turf. A few plastic trees stood in corners, so obviously fake that even the youngest scout could tell they weren't real. The ceiling emitted a pale blue light that mimicked daylight but lacked the warmth of the sun. "It's like they tried to make a park, but have never actually seen one," observed Lily, recording her impressions in her notebook. "Maybe they think this is what Earth looks like," suggested Roxy, pacing the perimeter of their enclosure, searching for weaknesses in the transparent energy barrier that surrounded them. Sarah had gathered the younger girls in a circle, leading them through breathing exercises to manage their fear. "Remember what it means to be a scout," she encouraged them. "We're brave, resourceful, and we stick together. No one gets left behind." Hours passed, or at least it seemed like hours. Without the sun or stars, time became difficult to track. The girls had arranged their sleeping bags in a circle and were taking inventory of their supplies. Food was the most pressing concern. Between them, they had trail mix, energy bars, a few packages of instant noodles, useless without hot water, and various snacks meant to last only a weekend camping trip. "If we ration carefully, we might make it last 3 days," Mia calculated, organizing their food supplies with uncharacteristic seriousness. It was during this grim assessment that they first encountered their captors up close. A section of the energy barrier dissolved, and 3 of the silver-skinned beings entered. They were humanoid but unnervingly different, tall and spindly with large, almond-shaped eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Their skin had a metallic sheen, and they wore matching uniforms bearing insignias that resembled geometric constellations. The aliens observed the scouts with detached curiosity, communicating among themselves in a language that sounded like bubbles popping underwater mixed with electronic tones. One of them carried a device resembling a tablet, on which it appeared to be taking notes. Sarah stepped forward, placing herself between the aliens and her troop. "We come in peace," she said clearly, feeling slightly ridiculous using the cliché phrase, but unsure how else to begin. The aliens tilted their heads in perfect unison, but gave no indication they understood. Instead, one pointed at the Girl Scout badges adorning the girls' sashes and vests, making an excited, bubbling sound. "I think they're interested in our badges," whispered Lily. The aliens conferred briefly before one of them approached Roxy, whose vest displayed the most badges. It pointed to her compass navigation badge, then to its own chest insignia, which indeed bore a similar angular pattern. "Are they?" Comparing ranks, Mia wondered aloud. Before they could explore this potential connection further, more aliens entered, pushing floating platforms that resembled hospital gurneys. With efficient, practiced movements, They herded the scouts onto these platforms and whisked them deeper into the ship. As they floated through gleaming corridors, the girls glimpsed other enclosed areas containing what appear to be small ecosystems. Miniature deserts, Arctic landscapes, and jungle-like environments, some containing creatures unlike anything they'd seen on Earth. "They're collecting species," Lily murmured, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "It's like a zoological ark." They finally arrived at a larger chamber divided into sections by more energy barriers. Each section mimicked a different Earth environment, though all were as artificially constructed as their first. Enclosure. The scouts were ushered into an area that appeared to be attempting to replicate a summer camp, complete with synthetic trees and a holographic campfire that generated no heat. As their alien escorts departed, Sarah gathered her troop. "I think they believe we're some kind of Earth warriors," she said, gesturing to their uniforms and badges. "They seem interested in our skills and organization." "So we're not just exhibits in their zoo?" asked Chloe, looking slightly relieved. "I don't think so," Sarah replied thoughtfully. "The way they were comparing insignias, I think they see us as potential workers." She was proven right the next morning, or what they decided to call morning after several hours of rest. Their captors returned, this time clearly with purpose. Using gestures and occasional holographic images, they assigned tasks to the scouts, arranging metallic cubes by size and color, tending to strange plants in sterile growing chambers, and cataloging small artifacts that might have been collected from Earth or other planets. The work itself wasn't physically demanding, but it was tedious and seemingly pointless. The aliens watched closely, recording their performance and occasionally adjusting the difficulty of the tasks. "They're testing us," Sarah realized, observing how the aliens noted which girls excelled at which tasks. "Evaluating our capabilities." Days blurred together in their artificial environment. The scouts established a routine. Work periods followed by rest, meals shared from their dwindling supplies, and group meetings where Sarah encouraged them to share observations and ideas for escape. But as their food supplies decreased, tensions rose. The aliens provided water through a filtration system in their enclosure, but seemed oblivious to their need for food. "They don't eat like we do," Lily had concluded after extensive observation. "I think they absorb energy directly, maybe from light or radiation. They don't understand that we need to consume organic matter." By what they estimated was their 5th day of captivity, their food situation had become critical. They were down to a handful of trail mix and 3 energy bars for 12 growing girls. "We need to explain to them that we need food," Sarah decided. "I'm taking a small team to try to communicate with whoever's in charge." She selected Lily for her observational skills, Mia for her knowledge of food, and Roxy for her courage. As the rest of the troop conserved energy in their enclosure, the 4 set out to find the command center, escorted by 2 alien guards who seemed confused but not opposed to their determination to move through the ship. Meanwhile, the Trouble Trio had their own plans. While Sarah and her team were away, Zoe, Chloe, and Joey attempted to slip through a section of the barrier that seemed to flicker occasionally. "If we can just find the ship's exit or communication system," Zoe whispered, "maybe we can call for help or even fly this thing back to Earth." Their escape attempt was short-lived. They barely made it down one corridor before being intercepted by alien guards and returned to their enclosure, where they faced the disappointment of their fellow scouts. "What were you thinking?" demanded one of the younger girls. "We're supposed to stick together." "We were trying to help," Joey defended. "Someone has to do something, or we'll be stuck here forever." The argument that ensued divided the troop between those who favored careful planning and those who supported more daring action. It took all of Sarah's leadership skills, upon her return, to restore harmony. "Fighting among ourselves is exactly what we can't afford," she admonished them. "Our strength is in our unity." Her diplomatic mission had been frustrating. Despite attempts at sign language, drawings, and even Mia's demonstration with her last packet of trail mix, the aliens had shown little comprehension of their food needs. They had examined the trail mix with instruments, but dismissed it as non-essential matter, apparently unable to conceive that the scouts derived energy from consuming it rather than from the artificial light that sustained the aliens themselves. That night, as they shared the last of their food, each girl receiving only a few nuts and a small piece of energy bar, hunger became their most immediate enemy. Their bodies, accustomed to regular meals, protested with growling stomachs and diminishing energy. "We have 1 day of food left, at most," Mia announced grimly, closing her empty backpack. After that, she didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood the gravity of their situation. Stranded on an alien ship, unable to communicate their most basic needs, their outlook was becoming increasingly bleak. But as they huddled together that night, Sarah refused to give in to despair. "We're Girl Scouts," she reminded them. "We've faced challenges before. We'll find a way through this one." 2. Little did she know that their salvation would come from the most unexpected source, the last place anyone would think to look for diplomatic breakthrough. Sarah Cross led her small delegation through the labyrinthine corridors of the alien ship, determined to make their captors understand their desperate need for food. Lily carried her notebook, filled with diagrams she hoped might bridge the communication gap. Roxy clutched her compass, a talisman of comfort in this disorienting environment. Mia brought their last snack packet, visual evidence of what they needed. They were escorted to what appeared to be a control room. Curved screens displayed star maps and trajectory calculations beyond their comprehension. At the center stood a taller alien with more elaborate insignia on its uniform. "That must be their leader," Sarah whispered. Through gestures and simple drawings, they attempted to convey their predicament. Lily drew pictures of humans eating, then growing weak without food. Mia opened her snack packet, demonstrating how they consumed its contents. The aliens observed with what seemed like clinical interest but no real understanding. One alien took the empty wrapper, scanning it with a handheld device before dismissing it with a gesture that clearly meant useless. Frustrated but not defeated, Sarah tried another approach. She pointed to herself, then mimicked eating, then showed increasing weakness, finally pretending to collapse. The alien observers conferred among themselves, their bubbling language increasing in tempo. Finally, the lead alien accessed a control panel. A holographic display appeared, showing what they recognized as the megaproject the aliens were working on, an enormous structure being assembled in space, resembling a massive solar array. The image zoomed out to show its position relative to various planets, including one that was unmistakably Earth. "That's our solar system," Lily gasped. "And that structure, it would disrupt Earth's orbit if they placed it there." The alien pointed to the structure, then to the scouts, then made a motion like stacking blocks. "They want us to help build this thing," Roxy translated. "That's why they took us. They think we're workers or soldiers because of our uniforms and badges." "A labor force," Sarah murmured. "They don't realize we're just children." Their attempts at further communication were cut short when the aliens abruptly dismissed them, apparently satisfied that they had conveyed their expectations. As they were escorted back to their enclosure, Lily and Roxy lingered behind momentarily, memorizing as much of the control panel information as possible. Upon returning to the others, they shared their discoveries. "They call themselves the Alvar," Lily reported, showing sketches she'd made of their written language. "They're building some kind of massive solar energy collector that would occupy the space between Earth and Mars. If they succeed, it could destabilize our entire planetary system." The revelation cast their captivity in an even more urgent light. This wasn't just about their survival anymore. The fate of Earth itself might be at stake. "We need to find a way to communicate," Sarah insisted, "to make them understand that their project threatens our home planet, and that we need food to survive," added Mia, whose normally rosy cheeks had grown pale with hunger. The troop meeting that followed was punctuated by the sounds of growling stomachs. Some girls suggested attempting to overpower the guards, a plan quickly dismissed as impractical given their weakened state and the alien superior technology. Others proposed a hunger strike before realizing the irony that they were already effectively on one. Amid this tense discussion, The Trouble Trio accidentally activated some hidden control in their enclosure wall. Suddenly, the chamber filled with what could only be described as elevator music, a bland, repetitive melody that might have been the aliens' attempt to reproduce Earth music. The incongruity of the situation, starving, trapped on an alien spacecraft, while Muzak played overhead, struck them as so absurd that they erupted into laughter, releasing some of the tension that had built up. When the laughter subsided, Mia had an epiphany. What if food is our way out? Not just for our survival, but as a communication tool. What do you mean? Asked Sarah. These aliens experience the world completely differently from us. They don't understand eating for energy or pleasure, Mia explained, becoming animated despite her hunger. What if we could show them what taste is? Maybe then they'd understand something about us, about being human. It was a long shot, but they had few alternatives. Taking inventory, they discovered they still had ingredients for one final culinary experiment. Some crumbled cookies, a chocolate bar Roxy had been saving for emergency morale, and various crumbs and pieces from their depleted snack supplies. If we could just find a way to heat it, Mia pondered, eyeing the holographic campfire that produced light but no warmth. Their opportunity came the next day when they were taken to a different section of the ship for new tasks. The Trouble Trio noticed what appeared to be a laboratory area where aliens were experimenting with energy conversion. One device in particular caught their attention, a chamber that seemed to accelerate particles, causing materials placed inside to heat up. It's like a microwave, Joey whispered excitedly. Through a series of distractions orchestrated by the Trouble Trio, Mia managed to access the device. Working quickly, she combined their precious remaining food items, placing the mixture into the alien heating chamber. She had no recipe to follow, no measuring cups, and certainly no cooking experience in zero gravity with alien technology. She was working purely on instinct and desperation. "I'm calling this last chance cookies," she muttered as she activated the device. The result was immediate and catastrophic. The chamber overloaded, releasing a cloud of green smoke accompanied by an alarm that reverberated throughout the ship. Guards rushed in as the girls scattered, trying to protect their creation. In the chaos that followed, they were rounded up and marched back to their enclosure, but not before Mia managed to secure her partly charred, completely unorthodox batch of cookies wrapped in a piece of foil from her backpack. Upon their return, they found their entire troop assembled before the apparent commander of the Alvar, a stern-looking alien with elaborate insignia, whom Lily designated as Commander Karath based on symbols she'd observed. Through a translator device, Karath addressed them in a stilted approximation of English. Disruption. Unauthorized. Severe consequences impending. The girls stood at attention, scout training kicking in despite their fear and exhaustion. Sarah stepped forward. "We meant no harm," she began, unsure if the translator could convey the sincerity in her voice. "We were attempting to create food. We require organic sustenance to survive, unlike your species." Karath stared uncomprehendingly, the translator producing only confused, bubbling sounds. The standoff might have continued indefinitely if not for what happened next. As Mia clutched her foil package, one of the makeshift cookies slipped out, tumbling through the air in the ship's artificial gravity until it landed directly in front of a junior guard. Curious, the alien picked it up, examining it with instruments similar to those they'd seen before. But then, in a move that stunned everyone, the alien brought the cookie to what passed for its mouth, perhaps intending to analyze it with some kind of sensory organ. The effect was instantaneous and extraordinary. The alien froze, its silvery skin rippling with what looked like waves of color. It emitted a high-pitched sound unlike anything they'd heard from the Alvar before. Then, in a movement that seemed almost human, it reached for another piece. Other guards moved forward, alarmed by their comrades' strange behavior. But instead of intervening, they too became curious. One by one, they sampled pieces of the fallen cookie. Each reacted with the same astonishment, some even wobbling as if dizzy with a new sensation. Commander Karath watched in what the girls interpreted as alarm, barking orders that went unheeded as more Alvar crowded around, drawn by the commotion and the strange aroma now permeating the chamber. Finally, with what seemed like great reluctance, Karath himself approached, took a remaining piece, and cautiously tasted it. The commander's reaction was even more dramatic. The alien went completely rigid, then trembled from head to toe, the color beneath its silvery skin shifting through a rainbow of hues. When it finally spoke again, the translator produced a single word: more. The cookie, that improbable mixture of chocolate, crumbs, and desperation, heated in an alien particle accelerator, had just changed everything. The Girl Scouts exchanged glances of amazement as they witnessed the transformation occurring throughout the alien command center. The Alvar, normally so disciplined and detached, were experiencing what appeared to be their first taste sensation, and they were completely overwhelmed by it. Commander Karath had recovered some composure, but was clearly altered by the experience. Through the translator, which seemed to be adapting to their more emotional state, came fragmented thoughts. New. Perception. Brain stimulation. Unprecedented. Sarah Cross, seeing their opportunity, stepped forward. Commander, what you've experienced is what we call taste, just one of many sensations humans enjoy through food. We can teach you about many more flavors, but we need your help in return. As Koratha's translator processed her words, Mia unwrapped the rest of her improvised cookies, placing them on a nearby surface. These aren't even good cookies, she admitted. They're burned and made from leftovers. Real Earth food is much, much better. The commander conferred with other Alvar officials, their bubbling language more animated than the scouts had ever heard it. Finally, Korath addressed Sarah directly. Your cookies produce neural stimulation our species has never experienced. Explain this phenomenon. Sarah nodded to Mia, who took over with newfound confidence. Food isn't just fuel for humans. It's pleasure, comfort, celebration, culture. We have thousands of different flavors and cooking techniques. What you tasted was just a tiny sample of what Earth cuisine offers. This revelation seemed to fascinate the Alvar. One officer suggested, via the translator, that the cookies contained some form of drug or neural manipulator. It's just sugar, chocolate, and flour, all natural Earth ingredients, Mia explained. Nothing artificial or harmful. After more discussion among the Alvar leadership, Karath made an announcement. Labor operations suspended. New directive. Cultural exchange prioritized. Within hours, the Girl Scout situation had transformed dramatically. They were relocated to comfortable quarters with actual beds instead of sleeping bags on synthetic grass. Most importantly, the Alvar provided them with a supply of nutritionally balanced food capsules, bland but satisfying, while requesting that Mia begin instructing their scientists in the art of Earth cooking. Using the ship's food synthesizers, which could replicate basic elements once programmed with the proper molecular structures, Mia began introducing the Alvar to the fundamentals of human cuisine. Starting with simple sweets, the familiar territory of cookies now made properly, she gradually expanded to breads, fruits, and savory dishes. The effects on Alvar society were profound and immediate. Officers who tasted food began developing preferences, requesting specific flavors, even decorating their uniforms with symbols representing their favorite Earth dishes. The rigid hierarchy began showing signs of relaxation as shared meals became occasions for more personal interaction. Sarah, meanwhile, had been granted access to the command center, where she worked with Lily to explain the potential danger the Alvar's megaproject posed to Earth. With their newfound appreciation for human culture, specifically its culinary aspects, the Alvar were now receptive to these concerns. Your species has much to teach us beyond these taste sensations, Korath admitted during one session. We had categorized Earth as merely a resource world, but we now see it harbors unique experiences. 2 weeks after the cookie incident, Commander Korath made an official announcement to the assembled Girl Scouts. The Alvar fleet would return them to Earth immediately. Furthermore, The megaproject would be redesigned to avoid any impact on Earth's orbit, and formal diplomatic relations would be established, beginning with a cultural exchange focused on cuisine. Your small band of uniformed young humans has accomplished what our scientists believed impossible, Karath told them through the now much improved translator. You have expanded our consciousness and established the first peaceful contact between our civilizations. The return journey to Earth took 3 days, during which the scouts were treated as honored guests rather than captives. They used the time to create a comprehensive cookbook for the Alvar and to prepare for their return to a world that had no idea what had happened to them. Their landing site was deliberately remote, the same forest clearing from which they'd been abducted. As they disembarked from the now visible Alvar ship, Sarah turned to Commander Karath. "Thank you for returning us safely. I hope this is the beginning of a peaceful relationship between our worlds." Karath made a gesture they'd come to recognize as respect. "We shall return soon to establish formal diplomatic connections through your world governments. Until then, we leave you with this." The commander presented Sarah with a small device, a communication link should you wish to contact us. As the ship departed, shimmering into invisibility as it ascended, the Girl Scouts found themselves alone in the forest clearing. Their camping equipment was arranged exactly as it had been before their abduction, as if no time had passed. But they knew everything had changed. The world, of course, had noticed their absence. Search parties had combed the forest for days. Their parents had made tearful appeals on national television. The date on Sarah's recovered phone showed they'd been gone for exactly 3 weeks. The media frenzy that followed their reappearance was intense. Initially dismissed as an elaborate prank or mass hallucination, their story gained credibility when scientists examined the alien communication device and food synthesizer the Alvar had gifted them. Government agencies debriefed them for days. Intelligence officials pored over Lily's detailed notes, and nutritionists analyzed the molecular structure of the Alvar food capsules. 6 months later, Sarah Cross stood at a podium before the United Nations General Assembly, having been appointed as Earth's first junior ambassador to the Alvar Confederation. Beside her stood Mia, now consulting with top chefs worldwide on the establishment of the first Interstellar Culinary Institute. "We went into space as captives and returned as ambassadors," Sarah told the assembled world leaders. "And we learned that sometimes the most powerful tools of diplomacy aren't weapons or technology, but the simple things we take for granted, like the pleasure of sharing food." As she spoke, on screens worldwide, viewers watched live footage of the formal signing of the Earth-Alvar Peace and Culinary Exchange Treaty. The Alvar diplomats, now distinguishable by colorful insignia representing their food preferences, used ceremonial pens shaped like cooking utensils. Back at their local scout headquarters, the rest of Troop 42 proudly displayed their newly created badge, an embroidered emblem showing a cookie against a backdrop of stars, officially titled the Interstellar Culinary Diplomacy Badge. It was the only scout badge in history to be authorized by both the Girl Scout organization and the United Nations Space Affairs Division. During the celebration that followed the treaty signing, Mia's phone chimed with a special tone she'd assigned to the Alvar communication channel. The message from Commander Karath was brief but momentous. Culinary Council requests instruction manual for pizza. Diplomatic delegation arriving next month wishes to experience this legendary cheese disk you have described. Mia grinned as she showed the message to Sarah. Their adventure wasn't over. It was just beginning. Who knew what other interstellar bridges could be built through the universal language of food? As Scout leader Sarah always said, both before and especially after their cosmic adventure, never underestimate the power of a good cookie. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, aboard an Alvar vessel, a newly installed kitchen hummed with activity as silver-skinned aliens practiced rolling out pizza dough, their formerly rigid military routine now punctuated by meal breaks, cooking classes, and the occasional food fight, proving that some aspects of civilization are truly universal.